What's the latest that we could be there for jury duty on the first day?
There's no telling.
Whenever you say there's no telling, so court cases can go on past midnight? I'm confused.
Here follows the most exciting interaction you can have with a government agent without being directly threatened on life, limb, and property. So I got a message from the local courtroom saying that I needed to appear at a specific time at a specific place to do a specific duty that they called jury duty. So after verifying and all that jazz, I basically said, "Thanks, Amanda, I'll be there." Now, in regards to the moral code that the court uses for their exemption status, because bear in mind on their little questionnaire they ask, do you find yourself to be of good moral character? Do you have a list of what the court considers to be good moral character? Personally, I typically roll with universally preferable behavior, a rational proof of secular ethics. It's a framework for determining if behavior can rationally be applied to all sentient beings throughout all time equally, without creating a logical contradiction. For example, most people can agree that a man in a coma is not a moral actor, neither good nor evil, as he's not acting. If you assert that negative rights, such as thou shalt not steal, a man in a coma is not immoral for his current state. If you inverted morality and said stealing is good and must be done, a person in a coma would be, by that definition, evil. Thus, the theory cannot withstand the test of logical consistency and no longer needs to proceed to the test of empirical testing, where you could stack up logically consistent ethics and compare them in the real world. That particular inversion would also be logically impossible, as theft is the transfer of property without consent of the property owner to another party. If you want the theft to occur in order to enable this inverted morality, it would be a strange form of charity or something other than theft. Is that what the jury does? Try to determine what is right from wrong in a given case as a final check on what is acceptable within our community? What's the case types we might be hearing? Civil or criminal? I'm stoked. All the best. Now, needless to say, within about 10 minutes, I got a call. This is how that call went.
I've never actually been selected for jury before. I've been once, but they basically dismissed us as soon as we got there, so I never got to ask any questions about it. And on the form, it's asked a question like, do you find yourself to be of good moral character? And I said, yeah, but I wondered what the court deems good. Is that a list or something that you guys... How do you determine good? Like, is it based on like a Judeo-Christian value? Is it like Kantianism?
No.
Ethics matters.
Well, the judge is the one that asked all those questions. So I'm really not too sure, like, different questions of what did they ask of, because they don't do it here with us.
Oh, okay. So they ask in the selection process. Because I assume if somebody was like, no, I think theft is good, they'd be like, yeah, you're dismissed. Get out of here, you bozo. But
No, you go through a whole lot of questions.
I was wondering just because it's like, well, what framework, how do they evaluate, good from evil or truth from falsehood? Because that's
Right.
like I'm a journeyman philosopher, so that's really interesting to me. As far as like, how does one determine good from evil? Because, laws change, and sometimes they change completely opposite. So I don't think it's correlated to law. What do they determine to be moral? Because it may not be what the legal definition says. They flip-flop all the time throughout history. Government changes, that sort of thing.
Okay, so, so like I said, that would be based on what the judge will ask.
Is this a civil court or is this a criminal court? What kind of cases are tried here?
It just depends on what's needed.
I assume the court, it's been a while, but I assume with the new changes to open carry in Texas, the constitutional carry, that has not changed. You have to be disarmed inside of a courtroom?
Correct. You're going to come through some metal detectors.
Okay. Somebody was looking to get with me in the evening. What's the latest that we could be there for jury duty on the first day?
There's no telling.
Whenever you say there's no telling, so court cases can go on past midnight? I'm confused.
No, not that far. Maybe I would say at least 6.
Okay, so 6 o'clock, pretty much, they're shutting down for the day, and they're like, we got to come back another day kind of thing?
Correct.
Is this something, because I have a client that booked the day after, is this something that they say, hey, come back tomorrow, or is it like, hey, we're going to reconvene on this day?
Yes, they can say that too. You can come back tomorrow, a week from today, they'll schedule it. They choose you.
Oh, that's interesting. So who handles the refunds to my clients? Because I have my own business, so I'd have to shut down my company if they said, hey, be here tomorrow.
Oh,
How does that
I'm
work?
not sure. Because by law, you have to be here. We're not responsible for that.
The reason why I'm asking is because if I had to, cancel the contract with my client, that would be, that would take me from, hey, we're going to make it next month to, hey, we need to talk about welfare or something. So that's kind of a big deal
Correct.
to say that you're not responsible.
Yeah, you would be able to speak with the judge about that.
All right. Are they pretty reasonable whenever it comes to that sort of
Yes,
thing?
uh-huh.
Because that's a big fear that I have, that they're going to be like, oh, no, show up tomorrow. And it's like, let me just fire everybody for tomorrow then.
No, they're pretty reasonable about it.
Okay. Anything else I ought to know before showing up?
No.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, and
You're
have a good day.
welcome. You too. Bye.
Bye now.
I think this is an important thing to ask the people that are just cogs in the machine of government how they determine right from wrong, just to start driving that wedge of morality does not equal law into their brain. This is stuff that I picked up at Larkin Rose's seminar, Candles in the Dark, and it's been a really helpful tool to just like, oh, well, I mean, is there any example of a law that you don't agree with, or is there any example of a law that you would consider immoral? And that's been leading to different lines of more or less productive conversationing. Now, right after this conversation, I got a text saying, hey, your jury duty has been fulfilled. Don't worry about coming in tomorrow. Have a nice day. One of these days, I guess the legal system will give a shit about morality. But until that day, I guess we'll just keep trucking.